Gamer.
Hey, what is up guys, Rob the Undead Gamer here, and a couple of weeks ago, some very good friends of mine, including Singularity Josh and some of our very good LARP friends, Nathan and Katie, hey guys, persuaded me to get back into a game I've not played for nearly 4 years, and that game is World of Warcraft, the big daddy of MMOs. For those that don't know, I played WoW for about 7 years on and off. I gave a lot of my teenage life to this game, joining in around 2006 with the release of Burning Crusade, and it's a game I've always have fond memories of, and a game that shaped much of my gaming taste today, most likely helping towards establishing RPGs as my favourite genre of gaming. I can't tell you the countless hours I spent exploring Azeroth with my Night Elf Hunter Traden and his faithful black lion pet, Ghost, as we did noble deeds, traversed through dungeons, and even battled the Horde on occasion as we stepped into battlegrounds to fight for the Alliance. I love this game and still to this day do a little bit, although I'm convinced I love the memory of it more, especially after playing during a 10-day free trial. Now, I just want to state, this isn't a rant or me just shitting on the game. This is really just going to be my personal thoughts on the game and how it's changed, so make of it what you will. Now, in fairness to my friends, I always said that if I ever go back to WoW, it would be because of friends, to play with friends, and that's exactly why I gave in to all 3 of them and re-downloaded the game. And I gotta admit, I was excited. I was excited to play a game I've not touched for 4 years and have great memories of. I was excited to play with friends and communicate with people, for that's what makes an MMO, the community. However, a lot has changed and I don't think for the better. So, where to begin? I'm going to try and sum up my experience of the game as best I can. During my time with WoW, both playing alone and with my friends, I noticed just how easy WoW has become. Like, it's stupidly easy now, to the point where leveling is barely an achievement. The 4 of us decided to start new characters together and do the usual group stuff. We did our first 5 levels in around 15 minutes. Now, yes, we were sharing XP as we were in a party, however, even with shared XP, that's really quick. Too quick, in fact. And the rate at which enemies go down, it hardly seems worth it. Even much later on with my level 85 or so Night Elf Hunter, I could kill elites in maybe 5 hits, and my Hunter hasn't got the best gear. I never played WoW with the intent of getting the best of the best gear. For some players it's all about stats, but that's never why I played it. So with fairly decent gear, these enemies hardly seem worth killing. Elite status on a mob just doesn't mean anything anymore. Once again, it's barely an achievement killing them, nor is it a daunting task facing them. Generally, when questing through an area, you'd eventually come to a quest that almost forced you to party up with other players in order to take down a boss, whether that be a bandit leader that was terrorising a local township, or some horrific beast that was pissing off some farmer. But obviously that gameplay mechanic or style of play has been removed due to the community, or lack thereof. Now, I'm not saying WoW is a dead game, very much the opposite. Yes, it's lost lots of subscribers in the last 2 years or so, however it's still probably one of the most subscribed to MMOs on the market, bearing in mind it's been around and been going for 11 years. But it's safe to say the community has changed a lot since I played WoW heavily. To the point where, for the most part, it feels like I'm playing a single player RPG, or might as well be. Areas in the game are barely populated nowadays. That's not to say every area was jam-packed. WoW's a massive game, but you'd at least expect to see quite a few players adventuring around the same area you were in. Now it just seems that main cities and the new expansion areas are where it's at, which makes the world feel a bit dead. However, I do understand why for the most part this is, and this also links into the easy difficulty that this game has seemed to adopt. Blizzard want people to play their latest and greatest expansion. They want people to level up and experience the newness as quick as possible, and for newcomers to the game who have probably come to play that latest expansion, the early game doesn't represent what they'll be doing towards the end very well. And so, what do? Give people free level 90s and make the early game easy to speed through, which honestly I think's really sad. There's 11 years of beautifully crafted content and experiences that have been lessened because it's not the latest and greatest, to the point where new players won't experience what I did when I started. The sense of achievement of leveling and progressing in the game, plowing through unique and awesome questlines that you feel fully invested in, allowing you to roleplay and immerse yourself into the game. It's a real shame. One thing about WoW that really upsets me now, keeping both difficulty and community in mind, is the dungeons. Back in the day, you'd get into a group and travel to the dungeon. None of this instant teleporting lark. If you wanted to teleport to that dungeon, you needed at least 2 members of your party to travel there to use a summoning stone. But what's a summoning stone, I hear you ask? You know those big stone pillars with the yellow runic symbol on them that are outside every dungeon? You may have seen one outside the Stormwind stockades, or on the rare occasion you get a party wipe in a dungeon and have to make your way back through to the instance in your spectral form. Well, they allowed you to summon the rest of your party to the dungeon. And it was all about the experience. Finding the dungeon and walking into it, which didn't break the immersion. Ooh, read the immersions! Now I've got to admit that the Dungeon Finder is a massive help. I'm glad they implemented it. Dungeons were my favourite thing to do in WoW, and it was no fun wanting to do one and waiting around for nearly 2 hours for a damn party. But when you do get into a party, no one communicates with you. The amount of dungeons I went through and no one even says hi to you. You might as well be playing a single player RPG with bots, or at least that's what it feels like. But dungeons have changed so much to how they used to be that there really is no need for communication, and that sucks. Now you just get into your party and everyone runs off steaming through it like there's no tomorrow. Dungeons take 10 to 15 minutes now, when before they took 1 hour, maybe 2, and that's because they were a challenge. Yes, most of my thoughts about the game really revolve around difficulty and community, but the challenge of these dungeons made you communicate with your party. There was a strategy, not just to every boss, but to all the mobs as well. Everyone would discuss who to pull first, whether that be the mob healer or tank, which also made players' class roles important. Now it seems they are hardly worth anything, and no one cares about fulfilling a role. Everyone's out for themselves. I did a dungeon with my paladin under the role of tank, whom you'd expect to be the first one to run into a group of mobs and take all the aggro. Well, you'd think so, except the way dungeons are, people just run on ahead doing their own thing, and so much so that the rogue of the group, a DPS role filler, was tanking the dungeon. I literally felt like my use in the party was obsolete, and it also goes to show how easy dungeons have become and that classes mean nothing anymore. Once again, there's no challenge, and that's really upsetting. Now, I've been told that it's not so bad if you're in a guild and do raids on the many difficulty settings there are for dungeons, like Mythic for example, but I shouldn't have to join a guild or be that hardcore just to do a dungeon that offers a little bit of a challenge. It baffles me why they changed something like this, but I suppose it just keeps in line with how the rest of the game has turned out. One thing, however, that I'm glad hasn't changed, aside from a few balancing issues, fuck you, Death Knights. And that's either because it genuinely hasn't changed, or the fact that I'm still awful at it, and that's PvP. PvP wasn't my favourite thing to do, but it's something I found myself doing a little bit more towards the end game, as really that's all WoW's about. But PvP was probably the most fun I had during my 10-day free trial, as it actually confronted me with a challenge, difficulties to overcome, and for that, at least I'm thankful. I mean, I'm still terrible at PvP, always will be, but I enjoyed it. The game has also simplified it so much, with many mechanics and elements of the game being removed. For example, when I logged into my hunter, I noticed that probably more than half of my abilities had gone missing. abilities that I thought were really awesome. There's almost less options and indeed strategy to playing your class. Even the skill trees have become simpler, with less options and customizability. Now, whether these changes are for the better, I can't really be certain. I never played a numbers game with WoW, but it feels lesser. And one really unnecessary change in my opinion, and this is a personal to hunters, but why did they remove the side weapon option hunters used to have? Yes, obviously when an enemy got too close you couldn't use your bow due to the range, which was annoying as hunters are a ranged class, but it made sense. It didn't break the immersion and gave you a challenge to overcome, making you play a hunter in a certain way, staying away from enemies and avoiding melee combat. Why remove it?
Ooh, red the immersions.
So you're most likely sitting there watching this and thinking,
well, if you don't like it, don't play it.
And, well, I'm not. I only returned for a 10-day free trial, which is now over, but I did try to give this game a chance. Now, yes, I'm running a little off nostalgia, and I know I'm never going to be able to rekindle that feeling WoW gave me back in the day, but I genuinely wasn't expecting this game to have changed so drastically. And that's exactly what it's done. Changed so drastically. To the point where it looks like WoW, but it doesn't feel like it. Not to me anyway. As I've said, this game's been around for 11 years and it's bound to go through changes and adapt to the ever-growing and changing market. And of course, Blizzard want as many people playing their game as possible. However, I think it's lost its way and lost what made the game interesting and fun. And whilst that may sound elitist, I don't think there's anything wrong with that in some respects. Now, I was never a hardcore player, I was a casual player. I never played for endgame or to grind for the best gear. I was there for the experience and fun, and that's what WoW was for me. Had Blizzard kept to their guns and upheld the standard that WoW had, yes, it would have turned a lot of people off playing it, but is that really such a bad thing? It's the same reason I don't play League of Legends or Dota. It's a genre I've no interest in, I'm not great at PvP and don't particularly enjoy it, so why would I want to play a game that's all about that? It also has a really hardcore community and steep learning curve. It doesn't appeal to me, nor cater to me, and why should it? It stays true to what it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is why people have tastes and favourite genres. Anyway guys, that's just my thoughts and feels on WoW and my short time back with it. It's a little upsetting, but it's okay that it's evolved and there are still people that love and enjoy this game, even old players like me. At least I got my great memories and that's what I'll remember and hold dear. Anyway guys, I've been Rob the Undead Gamer and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.